So what is the big deal? Well, and I'll give a little context for those people who don't know Doug. I will assume people do know Doug. Doug was a very dedicated anti-Scientologist. However, he was pretty radically against all cults. So he had a very interesting conversation with William, who did work on the West Memphis 3. And what is that and how's Johnny Depp involved? Well, very briefly, what happened is the very iffy conviction of 3 young guys for the alleged murder of 3 kids. The kids were definitely killed. The question is, who did it? And famously or infamously, Damien and 2 other young people were implicated. Damien dabbled in some pretty ugly, dark stuff, including Crowley. The Scientology link, for those who don't know, is that Hubbard, very, very early in his life, hooked up with a kind of order or kind of temple or whatever that was very influenced by Crowley. So early Scientology borrowed a lot from Crowley. To be fair to Damien, I don't know if he actually read Hubbard, but there is a kind of weird Scientology link to these murders that people may not be aware of. So Damien was convicted, I think, on very thin evidence. And like many people, I saw these controversial HBO documentaries which seemed to exonerate him and the 2 other people convicted. And after years and years, Marilyn Manson, Johnny Depp, and a lot of celebrities basically supported Damien, and he was released. However, as William says, there were 2 major problems. One is that the documentaries were very skewed, and he names one particular exhibition of evidence they did not highlight. So they basically went overboard, showing Damien as innocent and the police and the South as corrupt. Now, I definitely believe the police were corrupt. They were doing very fishy things. People who gave either testimony or statements later said, yeah, they were being pressured or forced to give those statements. But there's a more alarming background where William says that after Damien got out, he got involved again with these very suspicious cults. And Johnny apparently is also very into this kind of stuff, as is Marilyn Manson. I think like most people, I take for granted they're being silly, but who knows, maybe this is a much more ugly real thing and part of their rituals. And against YouTube, I have to be careful, but part of the rituals are with these things that they, quote, kill people to gain magic powers. Sounds pretty silly and stupid, but again, we just don't know. Did Damien really believe these things? Even if he's innocent of those murders of those 3 people, those 3 kids, he may be guilty of other things. Again, we just don't know. But what really alarmed me is a second fact, is that he tried to put a book out there to give his case, and apparently the pro-Damien forces, and they do have a lot of money and resources, as crazy as it sounds, the pro-Satanist people try to get his book off Amazon. So that raises a lot of red alarms for me, that you're not even going to allow this guy to just get his book out there to plead his case. Again, I'm not convinced. Him and Doug had a very interesting conversation. Doug very much believed what William was saying. And again, if you know Doug, he did not buy mainstream narratives and was very suspicious that a lot of mainstream news is controlled by the cults. And definitely in this case, I am convinced that the HBO documentaries did not tell the whole truth. So I think there William had a strong case. I don't know if he proved that Damien is guilty or these other people are guilty who were convicted. On the other hand, it definitely left me with a lot more questions than I expected. So I was like, yeah, I never thought about that. So is this a hustler journalist? I don't think so. He seems very legit. And Doug does not platform people without reason. So I would ask people to seek out the interview. I thought it was very well done. It's a very interesting, remarkable case. I will try to be fair to the documentaries. I will be honest, I had a very high opinion of them, but after this interview, I was like, wow, seems like they really manipulated people. So very interesting stuff. And just please seek out Doug's work in general. A very interesting guy, but again, very militant anti-cultist. So if you want a fair-minded view on cults, well, Doug is preemptively very anti-Scientologist and very anti-cult all the way through. So you got to bear that in mind. But a very great, sweet guy. Unfortunately, we lost him recently. Rest in peace, Doug.